Right, we're live. Let's see what people have to say. Hmm. Okay. Well, happy Easter, everyone. Obviously, lots happened this week. More of the Australian cricket scandal, and that's been dominating the headlines, and other serious stories are not getting coverage in the sports press. So yeah, is that. If anyone's got any other questions, I can write them down, take notes. I'm prepping this evening. Prepping's good. But yeah, we just have to see who turns up now. So if you're watching this on replay, this week obviously David Warner has now given out his own done his own press conference with a few tears, and his wife apparently claiming it's now her fault that he acted in the way she did. And I'm not very choreographed by Cricket Australia. Some of the things he said by avoiding questions, by stating that he would answer the questions in due course and let time take its course, says to me that there is more behind this and there's more yet to come out. There's now been a mixed reaction with people saying some of the penalties are too harsh, not harsh enough. The media reaction has been over the top or correct. The fact that politicians have got involved, very, very interesting. And there are plenty of discussion points on the cricket. Plenty of discussion points. The way that the whole thing has been handled by Cricket Australia raises questions on that organisation and how it is run and how the sport's governed in Australia. Obviously, you've had issues in other sports. We've had Paddy Jackson's trial with one of his teammates co-accused in a case. That was raised in the previous live stream. And what I try and do is keep political and legal stuff off this channel because that creates a lot of debate that sometimes can get quite heated and quite nasty. Also, it's tricky water talking about legal stuff, and that is worrying. So when there is an issue such as a sports, but when it comes to sportsmen in court or sportswomen in court, we have to be very, very careful on what we say on the internet, on YouTube, Twitter, what we post on our Facebooks, things like that. Because with what's happened to Paddy Jackson, it's remarkably similar to Ched Evans when he was playing for Sheffield United. And we have to be very, very careful what we say as social media users because that can lead to legal consequences. If you have any questions, place them, obviously, and I'll answer them. And I'm ready to take notes and be a little bit more efficient this time. And let's see how long we can keep this live stream going tonight. I want to see if we can break the 2.5 hour limit again. We've done that a few times. I want to see if we can beat that. So hello to everyone who's watching. Happy Easter to everyone who's watching. And if you are Jewish, happy Passover festival. So hello to everyone around the world. For those who just joined the stream, I've just been recapping on a few sports stories this week. Mostly in the cricket world, but there are other sports stories. Some are very, very good. But the sports media has obviously been following the Australian cricket ball tampering saga, and that's been ongoing now for it seems like forever, but it's only been going about a week. In the NHL, Vegas are the first expansion team to ever hit 50 wins in their maiden season. Then they've secured their playoff berth. In football, Tottenham for the first time in 28 years have beaten Chelsea. I think it's 3-1 final score. I think they beat them at Stamford Bridge. So that's an interesting one. Hopefully that gives Tottenham confidence in the FA Cup, because unless they win a trophy with this group of players, I fear that squad could end up being various players such as Harry Kane, Dele Alli, getting sold on. It's getting very interesting at the top of the Championship and League One in England. And we'll have to see what happens with those various playoffs. It's getting very interesting in the Scottish Premiership. Celtic are 3 wins away from the title. It's getting very interesting in the English Premiership. Man City are 1 win away from the title. So that's something to be interesting. Hello, Yellow's goal. This is that is one of Rangers' problems, is they are drawing games from winning positions, or games that in the past they should have won. They're dropping 2 points, and I would think the Rangers management staff would see that as 2 points dropped rather than 1 point gained. But Motherwell aren't a bad team. And well, how was the weather up there? Did you go to the game, and how was the weather? Because I decided to go see a friend on a Friday night, and of course all the roads were flooded, so my motorcycle is now dead in my garage, full of water. But if anyone's got any questions, place them in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them. And let's have a look at that. And I'll be very interested to see what questions you guys have today. And I'll do my best to answer as many questions as possible. We've had some very good live streams in the last couple of weeks. Let's hope that continue. May long it continue. And I'll be very interested. No, I don't have BT Sport, so I couldn't, unfortunately. I'll be trying to catch the highlights when I can. I know some of the results have come in, and and Toulon getting knocked out was very, very big. Was a big result. But yeah, I don't have BT Sport. I've only got Freeview, and of course on Freeview you're very limited on what you can watch on the old sports. But next week the Commonwealth Games starts, and that has not been very well. See, I didn't know where I could stream it from, and I did. To be fair, I got in quite late last night from the pub, so I was a bit hungover this morning. So when I woke up, I felt like a bit of crap. But the Commonwealth Games starts next week, and that has not been very well advertised for TV viewers, really. It's in the Gold Coast in Australia, and there hasn't really been a lot of build-up to it with what's happening around the world in sporting circles. So there is that. But Toulon getting knocked out of the European rugby was I think the biggest story out of rugby union this week. But of course, Major League Rugby starts this month in the US. Don't worry about my Wi-Fi is not great, so if my videos are lagging or anything, it's to do with my internet. I'm apologising now if my internet causes me to lag. Do not apologise if your internet is poor. I understand. Internet in the UK is crap. There's no need to apologise if your internet is struggling. It is what it is. But if you haven't, yeah. Well, the thing is, I think the problem with Saracens is you've got to look at how many players at Saracens are being involved in the Six Nations and had not very good Six Nations performances. Owen Farrell was decent at times, but you've got to look at the amount of English players who play at Saracens who underperformed in the Six Nations, and I think that's carried over into their domestic and European form, because so many of these players are being overused and not given the time off to rest, recuperate, recover from injuries, fatigue. They play a lot of rugby, and it's exceptionally hard to win, back to back tournaments. To win one trophy as a team is an achievement. To then repeat and defend that trophy is exceptionally difficult in all sports, and it's very, very hard to keep doing it year on year, especially in a sport that has a salary cap, which rugby does. This is the problem Rangers are having: is there's too many drop points, and as I said earlier, I think the Rangers management staff and the players will probably see that as 2 points drop rather than 1 point gained. I think the only consolation you can take from it was the actual physical performance of the players, but you didn't get the result, and that's an issue with a lot of football teams where they're now unfortunately dropping points. Talking about football, I went back and rewatched my English Premier League predictions for relegation that I did in October video, and only one of the teams I predicted to be in the bottom three at the end of the season is currently in the bottom three. So it's exceptionally difficult to predict results, scores, etc. But fans are very perceptive. I do think okay. Let me answer that one. I predicted that Crystal Palace would be bottom. I predicted Everton would be second bottom, and I predicted Stoke would be third bottom. And only Stoke are in the bottom three, and they're second bottom at the moment. So that's how far out I was with that. I'm believing just in that. I'm believing you're asking who I predict to win the Champions League. Yes. I think on one of my previous live streams, I went for Barcelona, and I stick by that. I think Man City Liverpool will be a very, very good tie, and that will go down to away goals. Well, my old history teacher supports Stoke as well, passionately, and when I was at school, obviously all the teams we supported were all in the Premier League, and at that time Stoke were not doing well in what was the old Division 1, so we regularly abused him. And they've had a good run in the Premier League, and I do feel that some of the transfers that Stoke have done haven't worked out. Some of the players have been obviously injured. Some of the players have underperformed. And the issue will be with West Ham and Stoke will be England goalkeeping selection. I was very surprised that Pope from Burnley didn't play in either of the two friendlies we've just had, considering where Burnley are in the league. That's an issue that England are going to have going forward is where their goalkeepers play their club football. That's going to be a problem, is where England's goalkeepers that are eligible to play for England are playing their club football. There are some very good goalkeepers in the lower leagues who possibly deserve a chance at a Premier League club. And the issue we have is the Premier League goalkeepers who can represent England, a lot of them in a relegation battle and don't have good numbers right now. West Brom with Foster, Forster being at Southampton. I think he's been injured a lot of this season. No, Joe Hart has gone down. I think the way he was handled at Man City when Pep Guardiola came into the club and he had to go out on loan to Torino, he didn't perform at Torino, for one. He hasn't really performed at West Ham either. And towards the end of his time at Man City, he was starting to decline in form. He needs to address his issues and take a step back and look at where his game's going wrong, because most goalkeepers do really well in their 30s for form, and his form has completely deserted him. It's not just that with England that we don't pick players that are on form. We also don't have enough young players coming from academies into first teams and competing for first team places. Tottenham are an exception. Southampton got a good youth system. But it's damning when Huddersfield have to close down their youth system because they can't afford it, and the FA hasn't helped them. but the FA are demanding that all women's Super League clubs have to have academies from next year to stay in the Women's Super League. Again, why are the FA not helping clubs run their academies and helping with youth development? I don't know. Chelsea have a problem with their youth system. They create a lot of youth players and then don't give them the chance that they deserve in the first team. The goalkeeping position is going to be a big issue going forward. Pickford shows that he's very more confident on the ball than other goalkeepers with the back pass and ball playing. And Pope at Burnley has come in as a replacement for another goalkeeper who's also English, who injured himself and has done very well in relief at Burnley as their number 2 now, sort of competing for number 1. That's where England are going to have problems because they're not picking Pope. I'm very surprised they left him out. And Joe Hart is the third choice goalkeeper. Joe Hart is on relegation form right now, and he's not even a first team regular at West Ham because Adrian. Butland is a good goalkeeper, but he's playing at Stoke behind a very bad defence. I think he needs to leave Stoke if he wants to continually get caps in England in the England jersey. He's only had 3. Injury has hindered his development as an international level goalkeeper. But at the moment, he's not getting the help from his defence at Stoke. I did not watch the Chelsea-Tottenham, but I have heard the score. I do feel sorry for you, Kemal, and we were talking last night on your live stream. I do feel very, very sorry for you. And we're mentioning some of the issues that Chelsea have at the moment. And again, I'm coming back to youth development. Some of these clubs have great academies, but then don't give the players a chance. And that's the issue with English football, is not enough English players, percentage-wise, are playing on a Premier League weekend. Whereas in Germany, it can be as high as 60, 70% of the players can represent Germany at international level, whereas in England, it's between 30 and 40%, depending on the weekend, that can represent England. Albeit there are 4 Welsh clubs in the English league system, with Wrexham, Newport County, Swansea and Cardiff. Even then, the percentage of players that can represent England and Wales is exceptionally low in the English leagues. So that's the issue. That's why Chelsea are struggling. They're relying on foreign mercenary players who are in it for the paycheck, and it's not working out. But something more is more amiss at Chelsea and at Arsenal. I think there are things going on behind the scenes that we as fans are not privy to, and we as fans don't hear about. And it is, a difficult one. I'm not one to say sack the manager, anything like that. I like to give managers a chance. Conte's now in his 2nd year. He's had his chance to implement his philosophy. So yeah, I think he won't be back next season. He said it's up to the board. He did. Newcastle, that your issues are with ownership. The fan base is loyal in Newcastle. If you've been to any Newcastle games, you will know that. But the problem with Newcastle is they get some good players in and then they sell them. That's the issue with Newcastle. They can't keep their good players for long enough. Andy Carroll, let's say Andy Carroll as an example. You made a lot of money out of Andy Carroll selling him on, but you developed him. You brought him through the youth system, and then he sold on. This is the issue with certain clubs having more financial backing than others, and they can, instead of having to give their young players a chance, they pinch them from other clubs. Let the other clubs put the effort of training them, developing them, and then they nick them. That's a problem. That's something else that needs to be addressed. I think no player under the age of, let's say, 21, 22 can be transferred out of the club they're at. I think you need to give these young players a chance to establish themselves playing. There has to be some kind of rule change. I know, Kemal, we mentioned this before, and I mentioned it in your live stream, a salary cap. A salary cap could also help football. It might keep a lot of these overpaid foreign players out, and these young English players get a chance. And if they wish to then move on out of the Premier League or out of the Championship, fine. But at least it gives them a chance to play the game, develop their skills, get first team regular action. If that means more English players are playing at the top level, I'm all for a salary cap. And other leagues and other sports have proven that a salary cap, if properly enforced, and all the teams buy into it, can mean a very successful league. You just have to look at the NBA. The poorest team in the NBA is worth $1 billion US. That says how successful that league is. this is the issue. Is also in the Scottish game, we've discussed this before. Is how can Scottish football, apart from a few big clubs, so the Edinburgh clubs, Aberdeen, and the Glasgow clubs, the big Glasgow clubs, the clubs at other towns and cities around Scotland are just not attracting the fans. And there's multiple reasons for this. Celtic, Rangers, and Aberdeen are your last three ever league winners. They're the only three teams in my lifetime that have been in contention to win the Scottish League title. There's your problem, an uncompetitive league. So when all these other teams that have got great history, such as Falkirk, Dundee United, Dundee, Motherwell, Hamilton, Inverness, Cally Thistle, when they can't have a chance of competing for the league, fans are going to stay away because there's no success. When only three teams have won the league title since the 80s, that says there is a problem with Scottish football and the way it's structured. And there's many more issues, but if you can't attract fans to games, empty seats look really crap on TV. I don't know how expensive it is to go see a league game in Scotland. I don't know what provisions they put on for away fans, such as travel, food and drink. But in England, if it's anything to follow by England's example, it's extortionate. And Scotland's not as economically well off as some parts of England, like London. It's just not. Economics has a part to play in it as well. But because the league is so uncompetitive with only three teams since the mid-80s winning the Scottish League title, I wouldn't pay that for a Scottish League game. I'm sorry. The quality level is not good enough to warrant that price. But Scottish clubs are struggling financially in the mainstream, and Rangers still has money problems. Still has a lot of money problems. The finances off the pitch aren't secure. You've had to rely on a loan from Mike Ashley, and that's something I worry about. Is Mike Ashley wants to sell Newcastle United and is going to try and buy Rangers? That's an issue I have. I think he should not be involved with football. He's not been a very responsible owner at Newcastle, and it's a bit of an issue. But that's probably one of the reasons why people are staying away from Scottish football outside certain clubs, because of the price. And I think, and this has been replicated in the English football system as well, a lot of empty seats at games. At the last England game against Italy, Wembley had a lot of patches around the stadium, various points of empty seats. So pricing comes back, the same question keeps getting raised. And the same issues keep being discussed on this live stream. Whenever I have live streams, the price of football keeps coming up, and but there's going to come a point where you're going to be like, okay, I'm not willing to pay £35+ for a cheap ticket. If that's what a cheap ticket is, that is a problem. The quality level in the Scottish Premier League and the Scottish League system is not there to warrant that ticket price. And if only 4 or 5 clubs can attract over half a stadium full of fans to max capacity every weekend, so Celtic, Rangers, Hibs, Hearts, and Aberdeen, that says that's not a healthy league to me, when fans are staying away in their droves. I don't know what the TV deal was like for Scottish football. But you see, that's another problem. Because of like the so-called unattractive fixtures, people are staying away. You've got to go, right, okay, we want to like encourage people to support their clubs, because St Johnstone, they are a reasonably, decent sized club in Scotland. They have supporters. Why are their fans not turning up? Is it because they know they're going to get beaten by Rangers, Celtic, and Aberdeen regularly? That's another problem. They've got to make the Scottish Premier League more competitive. And I think combining the Scottish Premier League and the Scottish Championship to a 20-team league could help with that, like the English model. Because otherwise, it's just a naff league. You play each other too regularly. And you don't get that wide range of clubs coming on the away days, such as your Dumbartons and your Livingstons and your Inverness, Cally Thistles and things like that. You need to have a bit more variation in the teams you play, and this is what brought the Premier League about as well. Was English football was in a decline, and they wanted to reinvent itself. That's how the Premier League came about in both Scotland and England. And in England, it's been more successful than Scotland, but English football's got a lot of problems as well. But But I don't want to just talk about football in this live stream. I understand you're all football fans. I really understand you're passionate about the sport, and I completely accept that and understand that. No, but I did actually predict the result. Ironically enough, a friend of mine last night in the pub told me what exactly happened in the fight. I wasn't willing to pay the money to the Sky box office. I'm sorry, I'm not paying that amount of cash. But I did a prediction video. I'm not surprised Joshua won. I knew it would be tight. Um, and I wasn't surprised it went to points. I wasn't surprised it went to 12 rounds. I do think Devontae Wilder will really be a step up for Anthony Joshua. I really, really do. But I've unfortunately, yet another boxer died at the age of 41. Um, just before the Joshua fight, the day before the Joshua fight, if a British national champion or an ex-sportsman is dying at the age of 41 when he's led a very active, healthy lifestyle, that says something is wrong with boxing. And yeah, Scotland has to go to a 20-team Premier League, 20-team second tier system. I could just have a 2-league system plus the non-league. I forget the boxer's name. It's on the BBC website. Go under boxing on the channel link in the BBC website. He was 41 and he was a former champion at his weight division. 41 years old. That's only 13 years older than me. I'm 28. I'm nearly 29. That worries me. That really worries me. And boxing itself has got more problems than just in the last 18 months. There's been several boxers die of brain injuries. I don't agree with amateurs having no headgear. Drug testing policy in boxing is flawed because the amount of time in between bouts for the top end professional fighters, that's a flawed system. Poor reffing standards, and the welfare of the boxers themselves, they're not being looked after as nearly as much as they should be. Anthony Joshua had to lose over 1.5 stones to make the weight limit for his fight, otherwise he'd been classed as a super heavyweight. When your weight is fluctuating that much, it cannot be healthy for the body. There's all sorts of issues with boxing, but the link is on the BBC website, so if you go, happy Easter as well. If the on the BBC website, go into the boxing section in sports, and it's one of the more recent stories. It comes out a couple of days before last night's fight. Any other questions? I don't want to just talk all the time. I want to see what you guys have to say, and I want to there's been some interesting points already, and I hope the questions keep coming. And Saracens getting knocked out of the Rugby Championship European stuff doesn't surprise me either. I think Saracens at some point they're going to have to lose a knockout game. But again, with Saracens, too many of their players were playing in that England side that was not performing at the Six Nations, and they've carried that bad form onto their clubs. I'm very surprised when I was talking about Exeter winning the Anglo-Welsh Cup by over Bath by a country mile. I'm very surprised that hasn't been brought up so far from people who watch rugby. That was a result that didn't get as much news coverage as I thought it should. I don't understand why the Exeter Chiefs in the rugby union don't get more coverage. They are a brilliant team, and they're strolling away with the regular season in the rugby Premiership at the moment. And they comfortably won that cup final against Bath comfortably. I'm very surprised they're not getting the coverage that they deserve. Very, very surprised. Which rugby or what teams are you talking about? Because Exeter were playing in Anglo-Welsh Cup action. The Exeter Chiefs. They're not even getting much coverage over here in the UK. Rugby League, I will have to check that one out. I haven't actually seen all the Super League results yet. But going back to Exeter Chiefs, they've basically been the form team for the last few years in English rugby, and they get underrepresented at international level. That's starting to change slowly, but I think if your players are on form and your team is winning constantly, same with Newcastle this year. I think Toby Flood deserves a recall to the England side. With the form those two teams in particular are on at the moment. Why they have so few players at international level, especially in England, and in the England setup, is baffling to me. I think that's an issue with the selection policy of England. There's some issues there. Is it because they're unfashionable clubs? The rugby league, I'm going to have to check that out, and I'll do that after this live stream. And then I might, we'll have to. I'll have to do a rugby league review video on where all the teams stand in the Super League and in the NRL, because I've done my prediction videos for the NRL and I want to see how close I am actually to my predictions. In the last live stream, I believe one of you mentioned the Paddy Jackson trial. That's not been heavily reported on because of what's going on in the cricket, and I think the media have been really focusing heavily on the cricket and what's going on in the Australian cricket right now. The reason why there's two reasons why we've got to be careful what we say with what happened with Paddy Jackson's trial. One, there's always an appeals process. It's very similar to Ched Evans. Ched Evans went to prison for a while, got released, and then they had yes, I do remember the Burnley kit, but we haven't hit 1,000 subscribers yet, so I'm safe for now. With what happened to Ched Evans, he went to prison. He was then released after his sentence on early release. He lodged an appeal, had a retrial, and then he was found innocent. So they quashed his conviction. So we have to be very, very careful with what is said on social media when it comes to. It doesn't matter whose trial it is, but there's been a lot of instances with legal stuff, especially super injunctions, when like Ryan Giggs was having his affair with his brother's wife, for example. And we have to be careful what happens when there's legal processes going on and people commenting. And I've been on Twitter and I've seen a lot of stuff on Twitter about the whole case. Now, I wasn't aware it was actually a case until he actually came out of court and was found not guilty. I wasn't aware there was a trial going on. I just noticed he'd been absent from the Irish national side for this Six Nations, which was a bit interesting to me, considering his form at fly half for Ulster over recent seasons, and Joey and Carberry getting his appearances. How well was that well reported in Ireland? I'll be very interested to know what your views about the reporting on the Paddy Jackson trial were in Ireland, because until the jury's verdict on it, we didn't have. I don't know how the Northern Irish legal system works. But it's very interesting. If the CPS has put a case on trial, they believe they have a more than 50% chance of getting a conviction. And there's been a lot lately about the CPS basically having pre-trials collapse or cases collapse because they've had evidence or they've withheld evidence and things like that. Here's the thing, though. The amount of false allegations made is dangerously high. And that puts off real victims of crime from reporting it. And I'm going to be very careful what I say because it's an ongoing legal thing. I know he's been found innocent with his friend, but it's very similar to the Ched Evans thing. And the evidence then came out that only Ched Evans got put in prison, that his teammate who he was with didn't get any conviction. And then at the second trial, he was found innocent. I have seen on Twitter that certain people are going mad over it, but this is not the first time. As I said in the last live stream, you've got to look at how much money some of these top level sportsmen are getting paid, and I'm being very careful how I, Hello there, the Moon Chin King. We have a newbie. Welcome into the chat. I think he's new to the channel. Hello there, Moon Chin King. Just like your questions in there. The thing is, over here, it wasn't really well reported at all. And then when his trial ended, the Oz Cricket the evening over here in the UK. I don't know where you're from, but state where you're from and put your question in there, and I'll see if I can answer it for you. But Mr. Owen Cantona, though, over here though, the Cricket Australia thing exploded with the ball tampering at the same time he was being found not guilty. And in the sports news around the world, Even in countries, they've gone mad for this season, and I think now the media is completely overboard now, with David Warner and Steve Smith and Cameron Bancroft and what they did. But as I've said to other subscribers and people who've watched the videos on that, who've left comments, more will come out on that. Back to Paddy Jackson. This is a case of whatever's happened. There were two defendants, and what was interesting is what the defendants were on trial for. That was reported, and one was on for just a lesser charge. Paddy Jackson was on for 2 charges. So that's very similar to the Ched Evans incident. But again, the underreporting is surprising considering how serious the seriousness of everything. I don't know what the difference between the Northern Ireland legal system is to the rest of the UK. I know there's a lot of things about laws in place for protected juries because of the troubles in the 70s to the 90s. Over here in England, and English Wales and Scotland have 2 slightly different legal systems. England and Wales, court reporting, if it's a major trial, they will say it's day 1. I've gained another 3 subs. What I've noticed is on my mobile phone, my sub count was at 155 when I started this video. On my laptop, it said I had 154. Now I do know I've had some issues with my data, so I don't know about you guys, how many, what you have on your channels and when you do your content and post your videos and stuff like that, and your data charts. But I've had a few issues over the last couple of days with the data recording, how many views I've had and how many subs I've got. But the last week and a half, 2 weeks, the channel has grown massively, which is good to see. We have a Celtic fan. Oh, this is great. We have a Rangers and Celtic fan in the same chat. This could be interesting. This could be very interesting. So I'll be very interested to see the banter between you two. I know I'll be very interested to see the banter between those two. But I have talked to death about football on these live streams. I obviously cover, as you can see, the jersey I'm wearing. It's an NHL jersey. I'm still happy to answer football questions or soccer questions, depending you are where you are in the world, because I know there's people in America and Australia and Canada who watch this channel who would call it soccer. But hit up some more questions, and if need be, I'll have to take some notes on stuff I'll have to research, because I'm happy to research stuff for videos. I did hear that Zlatan came off the bench in about the 79th minute, scored 2 goals, the equaliser and the winner. He seems to have a knack of doing this in big games. Now, I know he's not 100% fully fit. His knee is buggered. Come on. He has only played 6-7 times this season for Man United. I still think Man United made a massive mistake in letting him go. I honestly believe that. I honestly believe they made a mistake letting him go before the end of the season. They need to get 2nd place, and for them that will be a decent season considering how far ahead Man City are, and they need to win the FA Cup. They need to get some silverware because of their European exit. I think they made a mistake letting him go, and bear in mind, the team he was playing was the other LA team. They'd done that deliberately, so the Los Angeles FC could start there. The thing is, his contract was going to end this season anyway, and young players can learn a lot from an experienced player who's got as many trophies, winners' medals, and goals as he has. Some of the United youngsters don't fill me with confidence. And some of the youngsters they brought through their youth system have actually fallen flat. And the way that Luke Shaw can't get in the side, it's not because there's an old fogey holding down that position. There's someone better than him. And the thing is, Rashford is not. You've got to. It doesn't matter how old you are. You've got to compete for that place. The thing is, Zlatan had not played since December, so he wasn't keeping Rashford out the side, or Lingard, or whoever they were going to play up front. But he was a key squad player, and you kind of need that depth sometimes and that experience at training and on the subs bench to kind of help those young players through. And I think they made a mistake letting him go before the end of the season. I really do. And the banter started, and the Celtic Rangers banter has started. He was getting a lot of money at United. He was getting well paid. He's obviously gone out of LA. They've obviously offered him enough on that contract within there. I think the MLS has a salary cap system, and that's an issue I have with the reason with American soccer. Well, we obviously call it football, but the Americans call it soccer, and why the US national side failed to make it to the World Cup. And right, the Rangers Celtic banter has started to get heated, and I will say this: jokes aside, there are a lot of people who you know don't know the Rangers. This is the thing: when there's friendly banter, it's acceptable. When it starts getting nasty and vile, that's where I might have to start, making a few comments there. Salty, but yeah, we can yeah. If it goes past the salty level to the real vile level, then there's an issue. But but I have discussed on this channel and on live streams the issues with Scottish football and why fans aren't turning up apart from certain teams, which I've already named. But the Old Firm is probably one of the most famous derbies in the world when it comes to sports. And people tend to forget that the Lisbon Lions, all of them were born within 20 miles of Celtic Park, Parkhead. That's something that will never be replicated ever again. We're having a whole team born within a 20-mile radius of the ground of which they play. So Celtic hold that as something that will never. And the ironic thing is, yes, Rangers actually do have the most trophies for any professional football club in the world, as far as I'm aware. But Rangers haven't won, the league in quite some time, and there's obviously reasons for that. But let's try and keep the banter at least a bit friendly. I know that the Old Firm derby in Glasgow can get exceptionally heated and can overstep that line. And this is something that a lot of American fans don't get about European football. A lot of American people don't get about European football is like how really, really like heated these derby matches get, and how deep rooted some of the hatred really runs. But I mean, I'm a Blackburn fan, and my granddad's a Burnley fan. You got to imagine the banter in my household with the Cotton Mill derby, and the fact that Burnley are in the Premier League and we're in League One. But yeah, has anyone got any questions apart from just banter abuse? Any questions, guys? Because we've discussed a lot of things so far, most to do with football, but I'm happy to cover any sports questions you have. In fact, any questions you may have would be great. Car misfired. Nice one. I think I will beg to differ on that last statement. The way that Celtic have been dominating the Scottish League now for about a decade, that will be very, very interesting how that all plays out as time goes on. But as I said earlier in the live stream, and as I've said in almost every live stream, I think every live stream I've done, is Scottish football does have a competitiveness problem. When there's only like 3 clubs that have won the league since the 80s at the top division, and only 5 clubs that can regularly pack out their stadiums, that is a worry. When the majority of clubs are only attracting a limited amount of fans. Have you guys got any questions? Because it's just seems to be banter in the chat there, and I'm happy to take any questions. No one got anything to ask me? Anyone got any questions to ask me? Apart from the banter between Rangers and Celtic and how there's more. Hi. Okay, so you got any questions for me? Because I hear that I hear that there's going to be some possible rule changes to the British ice hockey with regards to youth players. There may be some rule changes coming up, and we'll have to see how that happens and what goes with that. And I think that's obviously the rule changes have to come in place, or they have to categorically put the rules in stone after what happened to you guys in your playoff series against Peterborough, because I felt that, was it an oversight on your part? I think that probably will be the case. Yes, I did see that on Twitter, that he had a meeting with the league management and the British ice hockey governing body about what happened. Because some of the top teams in the National League in this country obviously have players on two-way contracts with elite league sides, and vice versa with the top teams in the national divisions, North and South, again have two-way contracts with teams obviously below. That is an issue with youth players or players only playing a certain amount of games. If we are classed as if the NIHL is classed as a development league, then surely the import rule will have to be looked at again. And how many games should a youth player be able to play if he's on a two-way contract? There are other rules that could be brought in and removed and changed as well, and that's something that we're going to have to find out as the summer goes on. And I'll be very interested to see what comes of that. That is okay. You'll be back. That's not a problem. Any other questions? Because I'm happy to take notes and research stuff for future videos. If you have anything that I don't know about, that will be quite interesting. Well, that's one bit of banter that's dealt with. The Celtic fan has gone. We still have a Rangers fan. Any other questions or anything? Because we've been going for 50 odd minutes now, and I want to keep this live stream going for quite some time. See what questions get raised. See what people are got to say, and what sports people are interested in. Because it's interesting. Some of the questions that have been raised on these live streams have been very, very good and very, very in depth and thoughtful. So I'm very interested. What's my favourite sport? It's ice hockey. I prefer that over. Obviously, I'm wearing an ice hockey jersey. I'm wearing an NHL jersey. It's my favourite sport. I followed by rugby union, rugby league, and cricket. They're my favourite sports. They're sports that we have a fully professional league called the Elite League, and we obviously have the National Ice Hockey League, which is the version of Tier 2. It has a reasonable following, and in no case, I think you are wrong there. Yeah, it does have a reasonable sized following. The Elite League, regularly the rinks get sold out. The problem is obviously with there's no direct link between the Elite League and the National Ice Hockey League UK, which is the tier below, with teams directly having feeder teams. So some players are on two-way contracts where they're it's a complicated system, but it's nowhere near as big as rugby union, rugby league, football. It's not on the same level, but it does have a big support base. It does have a TV deal with Premier Sports. There is a European competition. There's a two-tier European competition, very much similar to the Champions League, Europa League. The Nottingham Panthers, Cardiff Devils, and Sheffield Steelers, they're the teams that have been in the European competitions this season. Nottingham have done quite well. Sheffield have done quite well. And Cardiff have done. the thing is, the British Ice Hockey used to have the Super League until 2003, and that was a very, very good standard. We had a lot of really good level players playing over here, and money issues, and there was a team went bust, and a main sponsor um, pulled out. Casey, I've already answered that one. I didn't, but I do know the result, and I'm not surprised by the result. What's my favourite team in any sport? I think it would be the jersey that I'm wearing, the Winnipeg Jets from the NHL. Um, but I've got my Blackburn jersey, which is in over there somewhere, and I've been following them since 1992. Um, but yeah, I think it'll be these guys that I'm wearing now, Winnipeg Jets, and they're doing very well in the NHL as well, which is very, very nice. Um, but no, I'm in Cancer. Yeah, no, there is a Europe. There are European competitions for ice hockey in Europe, and overall, as a continent, ice hockey is the second most popular sport in Europe after football. Um, and I'm very, very surprised by the amount of Americans and Canadians who don't actually know that we have a professional ice hockey league structure in this country. I'm very, very surprised by it, but it is what it is. Um, any other questions? Because we've started getting some questions again, and we've got people watching, and this is good. And I want to, keep the chat flowing rather than me just drone on and on. Yes, I do. That's a very, very good question, Justin. There's a regular viewer who's regularly in these chats who's from Melbourne, who's a regular subscriber. He's a subscriber to the channel called Musical Neptunian. Um, I don't believe what's been said in these press conferences that only three players knew, which were David Warner, Bancroft, and Steve Smith. I do not believe a word of that because they've lied about the tape. Then it becomes sandpaper, and then you get all these tearful. Steve Smith, I think, is generally a very upset man with what he's done. Um, David Warner, it just looked choreographed. His press conference yesterday, very, very choreographed, um, very PR orientated. Um, well, there is a couple that are playing in North America. We haven't had an. We've got there's one player playing for Arizona Coyotes whose dad is Canadian, but he was born in Guildford, and he's currently playing in the NHL, but he's technically still classed as a Canadian, even though he was born over here in Guildford. But we haven't had an NHL player who's represented Great Britain at national level since 2000, I think 2004. British ice hockey since 2003 to 2004 has had some money issues, as I've said, and we'll have to see how it picks up. But with the elite league getting better each year, and with more young players playing in the National Ice Hockey League, which is the second tier, I can see the future looking better. But we need more money in the sport. Um, yes, Casey, the Golden Knights is a very good team to follow. Yeah, I think there is a player being looked at Cardiff Devils by the NHL. I believe that's the one. But when it comes back to David Warner, his wife then came up because his wife is an ex-sportswoman, an ex-Iron woman who does Ironman triathlons. She was saying, "I feel responsible for what he's done." Well, this is what I've got to say to that. Before he married you, he was a prick. Um, he married you, he's still a prick. Um, there. I think I've mentioned the idea that there could be match fixing behind the ball tampering because of how amateur level they were at it. Um, but as I've mentioned, the changing rooms in Cape Town are a little bit bigger than my room here, maybe twice the size. My room is not big, um, and I think that for the coaching staff not to know is a load of lies, um, completely false, and he was Steve Smith generally had emotion there, but oh no, the Golden Knights will stay in the NHL. They've hit the 50 win mark. They've broken all records for expansion teams ever. I think they're the best first year team in any sport, apart from when a league is founded. Um, and they've got some good youth prospects as well, and they've got a good team. I see no reason why they can't do well in the playoffs. And next year carry on with what they got. I still think with the cricket one, and I will go back to this, I still think there is a possibility of match fixing because when I've been on other channels and I've commented on people who've uploaded videos of interviews given and the TV programs, when I mention match fixing, apparently I'm a disgusting person. And most of the people who seem to be defending Warner, Smith, and Bancroft are Indians because of the IPL link, and that's a country which has got a match fixing problem with IPL cricket. That is a league that is known to have issues with match fixing. So I find it very hard to believe that the coaching staff and other players weren't involved because when you tamper with the cricket ball, I don't know if you follow cricket. As someone who's played um, cricket from my school, and as someone who is an avid fan of the sport, when you tamper with the ball, you want it to reverse swing for the bowler, especially the fast bowler, or have an extra rotation and grip on the wicket for the spin bowler. So the fact that bowlers didn't know, I don't buy that either. What football team do I support? Is that American football or European football? That's the question I'll have to ask there. Because if it's NFL, it's the Green Bay Packers, and if it's English football, it's Blackburn Rovers. So I hope I've answered that question. And Casey, yes, I do believe that the Bison have played their last game. For now, I still think because they're owned by the Planet Ice group, they will probably end up at Gosport, where the Solent team play, and they will be rebranded over there. Yeah, the Green Bay Packers for American football and Blackburn Rovers for English football. I hope that answers your question. And yeah, Casey, I do think it's very, very sad, but we have an Oxford United fan, or is that Oxford City? Because some people do support Oxford City out there. We've got Oxford United and Oxford City. People tend to forget about that other club that Bobby Moore managed for a couple of games. I hope, well, Casey, if you want to go support Swindon again, there's your natural rivals in Oxford. Yeah, I don't see Basingstoke moving that far, to be honest, because if we'll have another Celtic fan in the lobby. We have a lot of Celtic fans tonight. I'm very surprised by the amount of Celtic fans. It's good to see a wide variety of sports and teams being followed, which is great to see. I do feel sorry for the Oakland Raiders fan base because their team will be moved to Vegas. I feel very, very sorry for the Oakland Raiders. They've been pissed around from day one with ownership. From the very first day they were formed, they were Oakland, then they went to LA, then back to Oakland, and now they're going to Vegas in a couple of years' time. I think that franchise has been badly run from the offset, which is a disgrace. And Casey, back to your point, I think the best option for the Bison team, Bison team, is to go down to Gosport and play out the rink there because it's a lot of Planet Ice rink. It's still in Hampshire, and I can't see them moving across the country. Casey, why is it that you won't go to another football match? There is a question I want to ask a lot of people, and this keeps getting raised: the price of football. It regularly gets raised. It and but it is very interesting the diverse range of teams, especially football teams that are coming up with who supports who. We've had Huddersfield fans on here before. I've got to wear a Burnley shirt when I hit 1,000 subscribers, which at the rate we're going with subscriber pickup won't be that long and that far away. So I'll have to start saving up some money for next season's Burnley shirt just to wear out of, because a bet's a bet, and I will stick to that. I will stick to that. I will stick to wearing I will wear a Burnley shirt on the channel for one day. When I hit 1,000 subscribers, unless someone is willing to send me a Burnley shirt in the post, and then I'll be happily wear it. Not. Casey, what is overhyped there? Justin, that won't never happen simply because, and I've mentioned this before, Scottish football already has an issue with attracting players to play and fans to watch. I've been to a Burnley game before, and I was in the Burnley away end at Watford years ago in an FA Cup tie, and I was wearing a Blackburn shirt, and I almost didn't make it out of the Burnley end. So I have already done that. unfortunately. But Justin, on your point with Celtic, there were plans 15 years ago, and there was an idea put forward by Rangers and Celtic that Rangers and Celtic would join the English Premier League system. But you've got to think on the away day travel for fans and the turnaround for players, because that is a lot of travel time for the regular season. And financially, you've got to work out travel costs. And would Celtic fans and Rangers fans be willing to travel to, let's say, Bournemouth for an away game? Or what happens if there's an FA Cup tie? Again, all these have got to be considered. They can fly, but you've got to work out flying a whole team and chartering a flight every away game is exceptionally expensive. And there is a problem with money in Scottish football. I understand that some fans are for it, some fans are against it, but I fear that if you take the big teams out of Scottish football, what the quality level will drop even further. That was another fact. This is when Aberdeen were struggling in the yeah, but Newcastle at the moment in the Premier League is your closest Premier League ground, and I understand that, and a lot of fans have brought this up before, and I completely understand what you're saying there. But would you be willing to go? Let's say you were living in Glasgow, or if let's say Aberdeen decided also to come on this, there was also rumoured to try and get Aberdeen and Motherwell, Hibs and Hearts, and get all those Scottish clubs to join the English League. Would you be able to afford to regularly fly to away games or drive, or get the train for half the season? Plus, you're not taking the League Cup games and FA Cup games. And the issue that the FA and the SFA are very concerned about with football violence, because as we've seen in recent weeks, West Ham, here's an issue. They've got to combine the Scottish Premiership and the Scottish Championship together to make a 20 or 22 team league, and the League One and League Two into a 20 to 22 team league, depending on it. And because at the moment you've got a 12-team Premier League compared to an English Premier League of 20. If you take Celtic and Rangers and Aberdeen, Hibs, Hearts, and maybe Motherwell, and they get them to join the English League structure, the Scottish League's dead completely. Who's going to want to pay for the UTV to watch Dunfermline, Dumbarton, or St Johnstone play Inverness, Cali Thistle? That's an issue. Casey, I don't quite get how you're wording that. You're not. Is that the reasons why you don't want to? I can't quite understand your question, Casey, because you really grammatically that makes no sense. I could sort of try to understand what you're asking, but struggling a bit there. If you were to take Celtic, Rangers, Aberdeen, Motherwell, Hibs, and Hearts out the Scottish League system, put them into the English League system, Scottish football is dead, completely dead. I don't think Partick Thistle is going to be good watching on TV. I've seen League One, Two, don't know. It won't happen. There's multiple reasons why it won't happen. You're better off keeping those teams, your top teams. Even then, you take away the Old Firm derby, which is one of the biggest selling points of Scottish football for TV rights. The TVs love derby matches because more people are interested. There's a surge of interest from the casual fan. You take Celtic out of Scottish football is dead. You basically, Casey, your question made limited sense, but it's the same with Hibs and Hearts. If because Aberdeen are regularly at the moment. I know Rangers are doing reasonably well this season and they're currently second, but Aberdeen are the other club in Scotland to really follow at the moment. You take any one of those three out of the league, or all those three plus Hibs and Hearts, and maybe Motherwell out of the league and join them with the English League structure from Premiership down to League One, Scottish football is dead. And that's the issue, and that's the issue that was raised with the when the SFA raised, and the English FA, there were ideas, and this was also owner driven as well, because the owners wanted to make as much money off the bloody fans as possible. And of course, Sky Sports, Nine TV Sport, and Setanta, and all these pay-per-view sports companies who had the TV rights to sell around the world and around the UK tried to do it, and a lot of fans actually, you'll be surprised, turn against the idea, and it was better to keep them in the league. The issues with the Scottish League is the Premier League's too small, so you play each other too often. There's not the variety of clubs to play. Because I like seeing teams like St Mirren, Dumbarton, Wraith Rovers, East Fife, and oh, you got a Kilmarnock fan here who's not very happy with his team, and unfortunately, I'm going to have to. Oh God, I, I will allow. And Celtic, they regularly get into the Champions League group stage, but here's the issue with Scottish at the moment. European qualification for Europa and Celtic, you're going through the qualification round to get into the first round proper. And Aberdeen can't get into the first round proper group stage of the Europa League at the moment. Celtic sometimes do struggle, and some seasons haven't even made it into the group stage of the Champions League since Rangers have had their financial problems. And that says something. That says something. And unfortunately, all the good players in Scottish football get pinched up very, very early at youth level and taken to well, let's see if you can. Let's see if you can. I don't know how competitive. And what Martin O'Neill did with Celtic making them competitive is he's a damn good manager. He's a man manager. He's a very, very good footballing brain. That's why he's an international level manager now with the Republic of Ireland. Martin O'Neill is a very, very capable manager. Whether you can keep doing that, because this season Celtic have been battered in the Champions League at times. Absolutely battered. It is embarrassing seeing a British side in the Champions League lose 7-1, and then hooligans charge on the pitch. And Celtic have been warned about their fans also with some of the sectarian chanting they've had. Same with Rangers. That's an issue with Scottish football, especially is the sectarianism of the fan bases, both in Glasgow and in Edinburgh, and that's an issue that. Well, this is the problem. I did a video on it when he got sacked. It's it's very hard. I honestly believe in giving managers a chance. And you can't blame Celtic and Rangers getting put in hard groups, because that's how the draw is made, because of where you finish. That's how the European draws are. You can argue that the system needs to be a complete lottery, needs to change, but you can't just blame the groups that they're in. They just cannot compete at European level. They just cannot. Occasionally beating Barcelona, which Celtic have done, and Rangers reaching Europa League final that one year were amazing achievements. But long gone are the days of Aberdeen winning what was the Cup Winners' Cup and Celtic with the Lisbon Lions. It's just not going to happen in Scottish football for a very, very long time, unless a lot of money floods into the league that isn't there right now. Yes, there are football hooligans in every country. It's not just most countries; it's every country. I don't know what it is about football, especially football, but other sports fans seem to behave themselves. Why is it with football that fans can't? They have to become more tribal. Why is I don't understand it. Rugby league's got a little bit of that. Ice hockey has a bit of that, but why is it with football that every club has to have its firm and basically act like thugs? Is it because the players are absolute pansies and throw and dive everywhere? I don't know. Yeah, but what's not getting reported is the Dutch fans, because the Dutch hooligans are also absolute thugs. The press, obviously, because British fans have misbehaved, they're on it, but they don't mention the fact that the Dutch hooligans are absolutely vile, racist, anti-Semitic wankers who will happily knife people. They don't mention that. That's what I find annoying. It wasn't just 100 England fans getting arrested; there were Dutch fans getting arrested as well. And because England were playing in town, they ignored the fact that there were Dutch hooligans also causing problems. Um, um, Right, let's have a look and let's see what questions we are. Okay, yeah, we got piss heads lobbing pint glasses. We've had the Germans do that in the World Cup in 2006. They saw two Tunisian fans and thought, with their Tunisian flags looking very similar to Polish flags with red and white, they attacked them. Out of nowhere, Polish fans had a punch up. Polish and Russians in Euro 2012 turned Warsaw into a battleground. Dortmund in 2006 between Germany and Poland. It's not just an English problem, but because in the 60s, 70s, and 80s we were so prevalent with it, with our European games, international games, club football, the media don't report the fact that the Dutch, the Italians, the Germans, the Poles, the Russians, the Hungarians, the the Greeks, European football, their hooligan firms make these English pissheads look like just pissheads. They are very organised, they're exceptionally violent, and they will kill people. And they've also got links to big organised crime groups. This is how these crime groups attract some of their yeah, but our hooligans are pussies compared to the Germans and the Poles and the Greeks. Seriously, English hooligans are softies now because of the strength of banning orders that have been put in, and the police, with all the cameras. It's very hard for a hooligan to be a hooligan anymore. When it does happen, it's mostly alcohol induced, and they're idiots, and they make themselves like muppets, and they get banned from football for 5 years or life, depending. Italy, I was out in Italy one year when every single Italian league game was called off for 2-3 weeks because 2 police officers and 4 fans were killed in 24 hours in unrelated incidents. England, how the hell have I've what? Oh my god. Okay, this channel has exploded over the last week for subs. At the beginning of last week, I was on like 128, 130. So to gain that many, the channel hasn't seen growth like that before. So thank you everyone who subscribed. Thank you very much. But getting back onto the hooligan thing, Palermo were playing Catania, and that's the Sicilian derby. And 2 police officers were off duty in their car. They had just finished duty. They were plain clothed. They were having a coffee and a bite to eat, and they were about to go back to the police station, and they were shot in the car. A Juventus fan was stabbed to death by 2 Lazio fans on the same weekend. And it spiralled. German league football's been called off multiple times, especially in the lower leagues. They have a real problem with it. The Greeks, they're vile. The Turks stabbed those Arsenal fans, those Leeds fans back in 1999. The fact that we have a hooligan problem is there. It's nowhere near as big as what it was 10, 20, 30 years ago. But I do fear that there's going to be trouble in the summer at the Russian World Cup. The media are not going to report it correctly. And some fans will probably either get severely injured or killed. I do honestly fear that at the World Cup in Russia in the summer, that in 3 months' time, 2-3 months' time, there's going to be violence like there was in Marseille and Nice 2 years ago at the Euros, and it's going to be 10 times as bad because the Russians are just a hooligan nation. When it comes to football, they are really vile. And it's not just going to be England fans, it's going to be fans and the thugs from all over the world who've travelled. There's going to be a bloodbath in Russia, I'll tell you that. But anyway, thank you to all the new subscribers. Thank you very, very much. Thanks to everyone who subscribed. But any other questions? Well, I think we've got it soon. Here's the thing with football. It is the biggest sport in this country, Casey, so it's going to get the most airtime. I've done this for ice hockey videos on this channel, and I talk about the media and ice hockey in Canada and how Toronto Maple Leafs, they are the biggest fan base in the world for this sport. They have the most fans in the world. So there's going to be that unintentional bias because the amount of teams that play the sport professionally, the amount of players, the amount of fans, the amount of clubs. It just is what it is. But there will come a point when I would say this: football may not be the most popular sport. Every sport goes through fluctuations in popularity and stuff. No, Florence is a beautiful city. Fiorentina, their stadium isn't the best. It is a bit knackered and old, but Florence is a wonderful city, and I do suggest you go there. It's a beautiful city. I've been there. The food is brilliant. The architecture. Go there as a tourist. Don't go there as a football fan, because the Italians, when they see football fans and they're not from the local town, they automatically assume hooligan. Go there as a tourist and just you can go on the guided tours of the stadiums and you can see the trophy rooms and the trophy cabinet and the football museums they have. Honestly, go and see it. If you're going to the World Cup, you better take a flak jacket. I don't mind football. I like watching lower league football. My dad used to play non-league football. My granddad used to play non-league football. Yes, I have been in a football fight. It's not it was alcohol induced, and I thought, sod it, I'll get involved. It's a sheep mentality. When you get a few points in some of these people, and the hardcore go, there's only one. It's not. Yeah, Turin is a very industrial city. The city centre has got all the Savoy palaces, and it's beautiful. But also, while you're there, check out the Fiat factory, the racetrack on top. You can get guided tours and get driven around the racetrack on the top of the old Fiat factory. And there's a lot of, you've got Juventus and Torino, and the rivalry. Torino is actually more supported in Turin than Juventus. Juventus is the biggest club in Italy for fan base, but Torino's got more fans in Turin and is the older club. I prefer ice hockey because there's no faking from the players. The players don't roll around like they've been shot. It's a hard man's game. And to be fair, ice hockey I think takes more skill than football to play. You've got to be able to skate and control the stick and the puck and keep your head up and skate at about 40 mile an hour at top end speed. It hurts when you get it wrong. You really have to play any level of ice hockey to have some level of decent skill to play it. And to be honest, loads of my friends have been around, involved with the Bracknell Bees organisation since they were kids. My mate's dad is one of the main sponsors of the Bracknell Bees team. So when you go to matches, when you come to our place, I don't know how I've just exploded to 171, but clearly people are either watching this live stream or have watched the channel ad that I put up because I did a new channel trailer. I have no idea how it's exploded. I had 154 at the start of this video, so in an hour and 17 minutes, I've gained 20 odd subscribers. I have no idea. I honestly don't know. They've obviously seen one video that they like a lot because it's probably because of how I titled the live stream as well. I think I've titled it Easter Live, Easter Day live stream. But at the end of the day, I was monetized until a month and a bit ago. And it was a kick in the teeth when I got demonetized by YouTube. And it wasn't through no fault of my own. It was because of the Logan Paul controversy and what the Suicide Forest video. And that's why, in response to that, I did my Advice YouTubers video. And I know not everyone's going to like every single sport that I cover, and not everyone's going to agree with my opinion. But should I sing a song? But what song should I sing? Because we are the champions. I don't know. We will have to do it definitely. I will definitely have to think of some kind of thing to do. Here's one for you. Shall I shave all my hair off and shave my beard? There we go. I've been growing my hair for like nearly 15 months. This mop has to go at some point. But Christ, by the end of this live stream, we might have 200 subs. That's that. If that happens, I mean, I've gained almost 20 subs in this live stream. Whether it's because of this live stream or because of who do you like coming out of Houston? Right, now we've got an ice hockey question from the NHL. I think the Florida have now blown it to get into the playoffs. The Eastern Conference final, I think Boston and Boston look good and Tampa look good, but they will, if they were to meet the playoffs, they won't meet in the conference final. They would have to meet in the division final, which would be a bit annoying. I think, well, the second round. I say Boston would probably be the strongest team in the East to come out with the way they're playing, even with injuries. I think injuries may be their downfall, but they seem to keep playing well, and their record since January the 1st is says it all, really, with them. The Boston Bruins, even though I don't like the Boston Bruins, and I've had the Zlatan Ibrahimovic thing mentioned. I haven't seen it, but I've heard about it. 2 goals, including the late late winner against Los Angeles FC. Well, I think the wild card positions, because there's a wild card in the West. There's still loads of teams in it. Um, that will be, exceptionally interesting with what's going on with Minnesota, Colorado, the Blues, Anaheim, LA. None of them are certain. Dallas are technically not officially out of playoff reckoning, but they're too far back. Because the East is pretty much signed up with Florida's heavy defeat Boston, yet they've still got a couple of games left, and they still got a game in hand. But it's not the US; it's the NHL, which covers Canada and the US. It is the highest standard, and then the second tier, the AHL and the ECHL, the tier below, they're the feeder leagues that go up. So they're the farm teams, as they're called. The KHL wants to be of the same standard, but with all the match fixing and corruption in the KHL, it never will be. The NHL is the highest standard league in the world, and it covers Canada and the US. Same with the AHL and same with the ECHL. They are the three, I would say, to get into those leagues, you've got to be good. Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate your support. And now we've gone over. Apparently, we've gone over 170 subs. So, is someone on sub watch? Can someone be on subscriber watch? Because that some of the players do. Yeah, some of the players will get around the top paid players get about 8 million a year to 10 million a year US dollars. The KHL is the Continental Hockey League, which is basically the Russian version with a few Eastern European teams in it. But a lot of teams are pulled out of that. There was a team from Finland, a team from Latvia, and a team from the Czechs. And how the hell have I now gained to 180? I have no idea. You better be joking. I mean, I'm gonna have to check how many subs I've got, because I've had a few issues with my analytic data. I just want to check this. So if my signal goes a bit blurry, it's because I've got my phone on. Let's have a. Oh, good God! No, I really do. Wow, we have a lot. Okay, and oh my God. So you said 180? Yes, I actually have 180. So in this live stream, I've gained nearly 30 subscribers in an hour and 22 minutes. How that has happened, I don't know. I think I might have just broken my YouTube or the internet, but it is what it is. People are clearly liking my content, and I have to say thank you to all you guys. Without you guys watching and subscribing and liking, even disliking, because I know people are not always going to agree with what I have to say. And that's what a debate is about. And I've had one or two idiots, but for the most part, you guys have been brilliant. Even with the Rangers Celtic banter, I felt you guys kept it to a decent level of respectfulness, because I know when it comes to certain sports and certain rivalries, it gets exceptionally heated, and things can be said that may not be appropriate. But I wasn't aware I was going to, hit so many subs in one video. I don't know if it's because of this particular live stream. But I have the same banter with Burnley fans. And the question was raised, the rivalry between Blackburn and Preston. I think you'll find the Blackpool Preston rivalry is far nastier than Blackburn Preston. Yeah, but any other questions? The KHL though is the Russian version of the NHL. It's just a slightly lower standard. And because the NHL uses different size rinks, their rinks are slightly smaller. KHL rinks are Olympic size. Um, that's fine. The Hull Pirates, though, you could say they're a brand new franchise put together, such like the Cardiff Fire. Both started in the same year, but they don't have the same level of success that Vegas have had. There is no first year team that has been in any sport, apart from when a sport is founded and a league is founded, that have been as successful as Vegas in the modern era. Let's have a look. I had 180 subs 5 minutes ago. Let's have a look. let's have a little look. See, I'm interested now. I've gained another 5 subscribers in 4 minutes. I'm on 185. So apparently, well, very interesting. The Smith and Warner decision. We come back to the cricket again. I think it has to be a watershed moment in how cricket is run, because at the moment, currently under the International Cricket Council's, I have no idea. But can I please just answer this cricket related question, and then we'll get back to the other questions being raised by Aman. With the ICC's rules at the moment, you get a 1 game ban. But what the South Africans were complaining about when the ball tampering came up is how the Australians were constantly going to the umpires about Rabada's antics and they basically played to get Rabada banned, and Rabada got a 2 game ban, and the South Africans blew up over this. And I think it's not that they got banned. Smith was the only one. I think the ICC were too lenient, and Cricket Australia, I think, have been a knee-jerk reaction in trying to, put down a standard. And if this happens again, we have to go by the Cricket Australia precedent. I think the ICC is actually looking at the laws of the game when it comes to suspensions for various suspendable offences. Because it is cheating, much like spot and match fixing, which is also a form of cheating to lose or cheating to fix a part of the game. It has to come under the same sort of coverage. It's the way they lied about it as well. I think it's to do with the lying about it. There's still more to come out on this subject. I don't know what's going on with my subs. For some reason, I've just become like really sexy popular. I don't know. The Golden Knights have been in the league. No, the Golden Knights this is a first year ever. Right, cricket is a good sport, and the Australian board. I think what's happened, because you put Austrian board there, you misspelt it, but I'll accept that. The Australian board, Michael Clarke, their ex-captain, said when he was first made captain, it was vice captain, captain, and coach. That was your leadership group. Then that got reported to, and when you had any issues, it got reported to Cricket Australia. That's who you reported to. Then it changed, and you put like a performance director and then a CEO in, and all these other levels of management. And what's Belfast Giants is the Irish team in the Elite League. Belfast Giants, check them out. They may have other teams in Belfast, but Belfast Giants in the Elite League. But if I can get back to the Australian Cricket Board, I think it's a watershed moment. I think the ICC has to, because the ICC has lost trust of the West Indies, the Indians, the Pakistanis, New Zealand. The ICC has lost trust with so many countries that play under ICC rules that they have to change how they police the game. Match fixing is still a problem, and I wouldn't be surprised if match fixing is part of this. Because why would you tamper the ball then? Because if you're not telling the bowlers that you're fiddling with the ball, they're going to notice that the ball is behaving differently. When a fast bowler wants to swing it outswinger and he gets an in-swinger when he's trying to get outswing and it reverses inwards, he's going to know. So I find there's more to come out about this match fix, the match ball tampering. I think David Warner's done as a cricket player personally. He's not very well liked in the sport, and I don't think he's well liked by his teammates anyway. He's not a very popular figure. Yes, so in Ireland, you have to go to Northern Ireland, you have to go to Belfast and the Belfast Giants, and they are an exceptionally good team in the Elite League. So if you want to watch ice hockey in the UK, I'm not Republic of Ireland, I could not tell you, but in Northern Ireland, the team to watch is the Belfast Giants. They're fully professional and they have some very, very good players, and they're playing very well for a very long time in the Elite League. So that's oh good God! So in the last 5 minutes, I've gained another 10 subscribers. This is mad. There is, as far as I know, there's no team in Dublin. But Ireland doesn't have a real great history of winter sports as such. It doesn't produce a lot of winter athletes. So if the sport is going to grow, it may have to look at new markets. But it also depends. Do you have any Olympic or IIHF sized ice rinks? Because you have to have one of them or NHL style. There's 3 ice rink size types, and that's IIHF, Olympic, and NHL standard. If you don't have any of those ice rinks, then you can't have a professional ice hockey team or league. that's what Dublin Council and the Sports Minister in Ireland will have to look at. But if you want to go see ice hockey on the island of Ireland, go to Belfast. You can obviously get a little flight from Dublin, Belfast Airport, and you can watch a game. And I think you will. I think you will like it. But Ireland's got some great sports. You've got the Gaelic sports. I like hurling. Um, um, I've seen a little bit of Gaelic football. You've got a very good rugby. Jesus Christ! Oh, wow, you've got a very. Oh, we've hit 199 subs. Um, um, I do think Warner is done as a cricket player. I think Smith will get his redemption. Bancroft, I think, was thrown under the bus. Other players would have had to have known. I'm very surprised that there's been Tim Payne is the standing captain, temporary captain at the moment. Um, they're getting battered in the fourth test against South Africa. They're getting absolutely slaughtered. So how Lehman can stay coaching for this test match, I have no idea. I actually have no honest idea how um, he can stay as coach for this test match. But then you've got to work out there's the one dayers and the T20s in this series as well. It'd be very very interesting to see what happens in the shorter forms of the game between South Africa and Australia and the rest of this tour. And this is not the last we've heard of this, but I think Warner is done. I think Warner doesn't play first class cricket ever again. And it's very interesting what the IPL have done, because the IPL is not under Cricket Australia. It's the IPL, and that is a league which has its own problems. And they were very, very quick. Smith agreed to stand down from the Rajasthan Royals. Sunrisers got rid of Warner like that. Well, here's the thing. I've got to look at my sub count has gone through the roof, so I have no idea why. I don't know what videos they're watching, but clearly a video or videos has gone mad. So if my picture quality drops, it's because I'm on my phone. My internet isn't great on having more than one device. Let's have a look at my subs. No. I've seen. I get my update buttons, and six new subscribers have put their subscription status as public. The rest have put them as private. He cannot. Um, I've looked at my notifications on my phone, and six subscribers have made their status public, and the rest clearly are keeping it private, which is their wish. And so it makes it interesting who my subs are. I don't know who 90% of my subscribers are, because they keep their status private, and I understand that. I used to keep my status for subscription private as well. I wouldn't say the IPL was completely fixed, but there are moments. I think there's more spot fixing than match fixing. Although there is the odd match that I have watched where there's that catastrophic batting collapse with the lineup they shouldn't have. But I think it is the Sunrisers or the Rajasthan Royals owner. One of the owners of those teams was actually banned from cricket because there was match fixing allegations, and spot fixing allegations that he was being investigated for, or his team. I do think match fixing is a far bigger issue than the ICC admits to, and I wouldn't be surprised if the ball tampering has something to do with that, with the IPL link as well. But I'll have to check every 5-10 minutes. I'm checking my sub count. I have no idea why it suddenly exploded by like 50 subscribers in like half an hour. I have no idea how that's happened. No, none. Yeah, and I Srisanth. He was my favourite Indian fast bowler, Srisanth. He brilliant cricketer, exceptionally. He's an enigma, but he really let his country and the sport down. And hardly anyone talks about Srisanth going to prison and those two others that he involved in his match fixing betting plot. It upsets me. I love the sport. I played it. I've been to Lords. My first Test match was at Lords. Jimmy Anderson's first Test against Zimbabwe on day 3 of the first Test. I was there for that. And I've been watching cricket since about 1995. I'm annoyed that it's gone off free to air TV in the UK, and you've got to pay through the nose for it. And there's a reason why Test cricket has problems, and I think the day-night Test is the way forward. And some of the older members of the ICC and some of the cricket commentators who are over the age of 60, they're the old crusts. Um, they need to go. Um, um, because the day-night Test is clearly the way forward. It will take some getting used to, but I think that is the only way, because when bad light stops play, you can then put the floodlights on and play on. I think it will get rid of bad light stopping play because of the floodlights. If there are rain delays, you can then extend it to a day-night Test match. I think it's the way forward. Right, any more questions? But I had great questions on the cricket, though, and some great questions as a whole. You guys have been exceptionally good tonight. You've come up with some really good stuff, and I have no idea how I've managed to blow up my YouTube with so many subscribers flying in. I have no idea, unless someone's inviting all their mates to suddenly subscribe. I honestly have no idea why I've suddenly had so many subscribers. Aberdeen is the team I would support in. As my family has links to the oil industry, and my granddad used to go to Aberdeen a lot with his work. Aberdeen would be my team in Scottish football. Thoughts on UEFA new rules? With the cup tie rule, I think that rule had to change. I think that rule had to change. I think they should also change the away goals rule to make it literally goals. That I find annoying. I know it encourages the away team to attack, but the amount of teams who played well who've lost out on away goals, I think, is ludicrous. But at the same time, the UEFA can't even impose the finance fair play rules properly. They don't force it. So UEFA's got problems. It's corrupt, much like FIFA. So there's the issue. Soccer or football's got hello there. Soccer, football, however you want to call it, to distinguish it from American and Canadian football. FIFA and UEFA have got so many problems. So have every single governing body in international football has got so many problems. This is a minor thing. They still have not cleaned up from the Sepp Blatter era and the Platini era in football. And there's a long way to go to clean up the sport. It's been corrupt for far too long. It's rotten at the top, and so many leagues have got match fixing allegations against them that there's so many problems there. Yes, it's on ITV and BBC for the next, I think, 3 World Cups. BBC and ITV have won the rights again to continue into the future. I think there'll be carnage if they took international football off free-to-air TV in this country, north and south of the border. I think people would stop paying the license fee. It will affect my internet a lot, and it will slow the. But if someone can find out for where Kilmarnock are in the Scottish, is it the Scottish Premier League you're in? Yeah. If someone in the live feed can find out for Killy fan where Kilmarnock stand in the Scottish Premier League, I'll be very, very thankful, because I want to keep my internet connection good, because my phone kills my internet connection if I do it for too long. Those ones. That is interesting. But there's so minute rule changes. The fourth sub, I think it takes away from the fact that extra time is meant to be a real challenge, and that's what makes it an international or European level match or knockout match in cup football. I agree with the 23-man squad. It means more youth players can be on the bench. That's perfectly fine, but I totally agree with that. Match timing changes. What's the point? Because it doesn't matter, because the poor away fans get stuck. But there are such minute changes on kick-off times for European games or internationals, and the one I do like is the 23-man squad. But at the same time, UEFA's got far bigger problems to deal with than these little minute rule changes, such as next year possibly getting rid of the away goals rule, and they're allowing players who've been transferred, who've played in Europe, to play for their new clubs in Europe. I wasn't aware you lived in Asia, but here's the thing. To grow the game in Asia, first there's two things they've got to do: set up, make the leagues in Asia very competitive to keep the best Asian players in Asia. Secondly, match fixing in Asian football is endemic, and FIFA, UEFA, are not doing enough to combat it. I understand. Like, I've got viewers on my channel from all over the world, in Australia to Canada, and um, I understand that viewing times do matter, but at the same time, most of the football fans themselves who actually wear the jerseys, go to the matches, are from the local area that they support. But I do understand that yeah, there are concerns for fans worldwide. I completely understand where you're coming from, but it's annoying for us over here in Europe when they do these little tinker changes and we don't understand why. They don't explain it enough to us, the fans. My hair will be cut at another time because it's 20 to 10 and I have my clippers somewhere, and we'll maybe have to do that another day. Or should I keep growing my hair to 1,000 subscribers? That will be more interesting. The sing song. What song shall I sing? Because I've got to be careful for copyright violation. That's something I've realised from one of my previous live streams. Playing music and singing along, I can get in trouble. You're not my closest subscriber. My closest subscriber is 500 meters from my house. You're not the closest sub. You're not the closest subscriber, I'm afraid, Casey. I'm not singing One Direction because A, I'm a bloke. B, I'm a bloke, and C, they're shit. There are some things I won't do. I will wear the Burnley shirt, but I know they had their time. It was called the 90s when popular music actually was popular and they could write songs rather than be manufactured. But it is what it is. But how many subscribers have I hit now? Does anyone know how many subscribers I've hit? Because I want to keep answering your questions. So if someone can check, does anyone know how many subscribers I've hit at all? All right, you said sing Wildcats. No, there are limits. I didn't watch the actual bout, but I did do thank you, a prediction video on it where I had a preview video, and I wasn't surprised it went to 12 rounds. I wasn't surprised that it was so close. I thought if the longer it went on, Joshua may, start to struggle. He doesn't go the distance a lot. He never has. He's never had to. He's always knocked out his opponents earlier on in the fights. Parker has gone the distance several times. And so last night's boxing, the result doesn't surprise me in the slightest. I think Deontay Wilder will be a far, far different beast. And that's taken away nothing from Joseph Parker at all. Joseph Parker is a damn good fighter, and that's his first defeat in 25 bouts. So you can't take anything away from Parker. But Deontay Wilder is another step up. And whether Joshua can actually do that is another thing. We have Tyson Fury, though. I think I'm not sure if he boxes again with the issues he's had with the cocaine and the 2-year ban and some of the antics he does outside the ring. And I think he's a very hot iron. I don't see him fighting again. He's well overweight. And this is what I mentioned earlier in the live stream, if you were listening, about the welfare of the boxers. You've got to look after the welfare of these people. The constant weight changes to lose or gain weight is takes a lot out of your body and your heart and lungs, especially. I know he's in training, but Christ, he's been out the ring for so long. The last time someone was out the ring this long and they got back in, I think it was Audley Harrison, and he lasted 82 seconds, if not less. He is a damn good fighter, but personal issues he has and the antics he gets up to is the problem, and that's a problem for a promoter. Um, uh, see, John Jones, I don't really follow boxing as much as I used to. There's been a lot of boxing related deaths um, in the last couple of years. I forget who the boxer is. If you, it's on the BBC Sport website under the boxing section. A boxer, an ex-boxer who was an ex-champion, died at the age of 41. I think the day before, 2 days ago, when he was perfectly healthy. So there are issues with the welfare of the boxers, and the refereeing standard is not very very good. But yeah, there are some good young talented fighters, not just in the UK but around the world who are coming through at the moment. Um, and we just have to see what happens. I think Tyson Fury, it's very difficult for a for any promoter to want to touch him at the moment because of his off out ring, out of the gym antics and some of his things he's said in the press and the issues he's had. Uh, okay, UFC again. I had an interest in it for a while, but again, I've lost interest in it. And I do think the UFC fighters are exceptionally underpaid for what they have to go through physically, like the damage their bodies take. Um, they're exceptionally underpaid for that. Some of them have very very short careers. I think Conor McGregor did, okay, yeah, his fight against Mayweather Jr. was a bit of a show, but not really a boxing bout as the traditional sense. But he made a lot of money out of it. He doesn't actually have to fight again. But I wouldn't be surprised with his competitive nature that he does go back. Ronda Rousey signing her WWE contract again, making a very sound decision financially. Simply because UFC careers are so short in the long term. Yeah. Actually, no. The average contract's about $1 million a year. I think he will fight in either Bellator or or UFC. The two main promoters. There's several promotions. I mean, there are some smaller ones trying to gain that space, but Bellator is another promotion that I think he may have to go down the route of, if not UFC. And Ronda Rousey, because the wrestling, especially WWE, have a link with Bellator. She may go back into MMA at some point um, through Bellator. Should things not work out. A lot of boxers say that when they tough talk. I find that bit painful to watch. There is an issue with steroids in boxing that they're not addressing. Um, some of, I mean, Mike Tyson did the same thing about 20 years ago. Mike Tyson went to prison for raping someone. Mike Tyson bit Amanda Holyfield's ear off. Um, Boxing has always had these characters. This is why I think Tyson Fury, some promoters may not touch him. And Deontay Wilder, it doesn't surprise me he said it. I know he said it. Um, I remember Tyson when I was a kid, some of the things he came out with. And the fact he did actually bite a guy's ear off or part of a guy's ear off. They're yeah, no, Tyson did, and this is what I find weird. Like, I know, like, boxers are prone to brain damage, but some of the stuff they say and do really is concerning with all the people around them. They're the hangers on in their entourage. Some of the stuff that they say and do, really doesn't shock me anymore. This is one of the reasons why I don't enjoy watching the sport. Um, Derek Chisora and David Haye, when they had their bust up, when Derek Chisora was going in to fight Klitschko and David Haye bottled him. That Derek Chisora's got a lot of problems as well. Hence why he's almost untouchable by a promoter. Um, oh, Coca-Cola, please. Pepsi, really? Ugh. I don't like Pepsi. It's too caramelly. It's too much caramel in it. I'm a Coca-Cola guy, me. Just this. Okay, that's not a problem. Any participation's participation. You know, if you only ask one question or 100, you're participating in the live stream. You know, you're a regular viewer, you're a subscriber, and I appreciate your support. You do not have to apologise for. I'd have to disagree with Pepsi because Pepsi's A, more expensive than beer is disgusting. Oh, I've got a message from someone. Do apologise about that. Someone apparently unpopular with someone. I've been sent a WhatsApp. God knows what it is. Um, I'm all, but no, you guys have really made the live stream exceptionally interesting tonight. And great fun to participate in it as again, you know, as usual. Um, and you know, I appreciate all your involvement, all the questions you ask, the topics we discuss. And sometimes it doesn't have to be necessarily 100% sports based, but obviously this is a sports channel, so we should discuss non-sports things. But we've now hit 203 subscribers. So in this video, I've gained over 50 subs. That is something I was not expecting at the start of the stream. But any more questions? So I want to keep this live stream going till at least about 20 past 10. So and I'll get another half hour. Any more questions? Because I want to keep the going. That is insane. I've never had a growth like that at all. Back in November when the Rugby League World Cup was on, I had a big load of growth, but the channel was much smaller. It was obviously a very popular rugby league tournament, and Ireland did quite well in the Rugby League World Cup this autumn. But for a period of time, yes, I like my Call of Duty. I like my GTA. I like my Total War games and Red Alert games. I've been a gamer since 1993, 94. Play on the old Atari and the old Sega Mega Drive. I've been doing it for most of my life. I've still got my original PlayStation. I've still got my original PlayStation. What's that? I did on WhatsApp. What's that? Yes, to friends when they ask. The best advice I can give is just be exceptionally careful with WhatsApp. WhatsApp is owned by Facebook. They say it's data encrypted and you can't transfer the data. They can. I've got a lot of mates who work in the IT industry, and WhatsApp is not encrypted at all. It is, but it's encrypted so they can harvest your data. The World Cup obviously is coming up in the summer, and obviously there's going to be a minimum of 2 matches a day in the group stage, if not 3 or 4. I'm more than happy to do. I'll be doing a lot of videos over the Football World Cup, but I've found the tournaments like the Six Nations and the Rugby League World Cup. I gain a lot of subscribers that way when big tournaments on because there's a lot of interest in the sporting event. I've also gained a lot of subscribers through what's happened with the cricket. But no, the FIFA World Cup, the World Cup in Russia this summer, there'll be a lot of content on this channel to do with the World Cup. And if you're an NHL fan, because I know there are some on the live stream or have been, of course the playoffs are coming around the corner, and I've got a few links to some streaming websites. So yeah, there will be a lot of content coming up in the next couple of months. Oh yeah, Football Manager. That was an addiction for me back in the day. I used to love Football Manager, and then I realised, there was a thing called the outdoors. When people say vlogs, like when I go to games, I very rarely film film the action because I actually like watching the game, and I get really annoyed when people are on their phones or filming or taking photographs. Uh, you're there to enjoy it, not watch it. Um, I'm going to do a video on Rangers history, and that takes a bit of research because I want to research every trophy, every tournament they've been involved in. So I'm going to do a video on Rangers club history, a short video, it'll be like a brief history video, but I'm going to look at the amount of trophies they've won, some of their big name players they've had, one player per generation. I'm going to have to do a fair bit of research, hence the notepad. I want to make sure I do it justice rather than just go, okay, Rangers have had some money problems the last 10, 20 years. No, I want to really look into the history of the team, and the trophies they've won. And no, I didn't play Premier Manager on PS1. But I think my favourite game has got to be what's my favourite game? I'll have to say my favourite game is Crash Bandicoot. If in all honesty, um, but I used to play some of the sports games. I don't really now. I haven't enjoyed all the latest Call of Duties. I think some of them. St Johnston. The problem with St Johnston is because where your club are positioned geographically, you've got Glasgow and Edinburgh nearby, and that means a lot of fans will support Celtic, Hearts, Hibs, and Rangers. That's a big problem when you've got to draw fans. But St Johnston have developed some great players over the years, and one famous manager used to play for you. His name is Sir Alex Ferguson. So that's where he started his career. That's where Fergie started his career as a player, was at St Johnston. How different could his career path been had he had started somewhere else? We will never know. The thing is, I don't. Crash Bandicoot was good. No, my favorite GTA is GTA 4. It That's my favorite GTA. Everyone's got their favorite GTA. Everyone's got their favorite uh, console, favorite game, favorite franchise of games. But there are some good titles out there, and there are some horrific titles out there, and there's some unique titles out there for gaming. I don't game as nearly as much as I used to. I used to come in from work at let's say 5, 6, 7, 8 in the evening, and be gaming until 3 in the morning, and have to be up at 6 in the morning for work in a factory. So I that was a couple of years back. I don't game near as much as I used to a couple of years ago, but I do go. Yeah, I go on the old console every now and then. Okay, but this is the issue with Scottish football: is the uncompetitiveness of it. I think the Scottish Prem and the Scottish Championship have to combine the leagues, like the Premier League did in England in 1992. Go to a 20-team top tier and a 20 or 24-team tier 2, and you'll find the competitive level goes up. And because there's now more teams in the top division, the TV rights will improve. That's something Scottish football's got to do seriously. There are problems with Scottish football with money and fans turning up the games. I don't know what St Johnston's capacity is at their stadium. And I don't know how many fans turn up. I don't know how expensive it is to watch your team play. But I wouldn't be surprised if St Johnston really do have a very tight budget and a very small budget to work with. But I've already promised to do a video on Rangers. I can look at other Scottish clubs as well. Scottish football was something that I haven't watched a lot of over the years, simply because free-to-air TV of league games, be it Scottish or English, is just not there. And because they've taken European football off free-to-air TV in the UK, that's another problem. Fans are staying away because they know they're going to lose. And to casual fans, that's a problem. Scottish football needs investment, both from central government and from private investors. And it needs to combine the two top tiers of Scottish football into a bigger Premiership. It needs to combine the two bottom tiers of professional football in Scotland, or the league system, into a Championship. That is the only way they're going to get the TV revenue, because there's more teams playing in the same league. And that means there could be more hurdles or banana skins for a Celtic, a Rangers, and Aberdeen, a Hibs, a Hearts to stumble over. Because you've got to think of this: Rangers got obviously kicked out of the Premier League because of money reasons, had to reform. Hibs, Hearts have both been relegated out of the Premier League and had to fight their way back into Premier League. And Aberdeen have basically been the second side in Scotland for a period of time. It's getting a bit close with Rangers now. It's a bit more of a scramble for second now. And Celtic have basically been the only team that consistently at the top. And that is the problem. Motherwell have spent a lot of money expanding their ground. Ross County have spent a lot of money expanding their ground rather than investing in the playing squad, on the verge of getting relegated. There are issues. Yeah, Scottish football has a lot of problems, but football in general has a lot of problems. And I don't know how much it costs for you to go see a game at your club. I really don't. But every time I do these type of questions come up about how football and clubs and how they're doing and things like that. People are turned off by the players, throwing themselves down easily, diving, and basically look like someone sneezing can knock them over, which is completely unbelievable and unrealistic. The top players, their wages are killing the game. This is why lower league clubs or lower level clubs are struggling because of wage demands. And there's a lot of empty seats at grounds at the moment. A lot of empty seats at grounds, even in the top tiers of English and Scottish football. There's empty seats all over the place. Fans are feeling priced out, and the average age of a football fan in the UK is 41. There's multiple issues there. Ownership of clubs is another issue. Club finances, transfer market, the overinflated transfer market, which means some teams can never afford to buy any players. Other teams have to sell their best players to survive. It's mad, absolutely mad. It's completely unsustainable, and I don't know how much longer it can carry on. There will be a point where the money bubble does burst, and it all goes horribly, horribly wrong. But that's my way of fixing Scottish football is to combine the two top leagues into a bigger Premier League, and then combine the next two leagues into a Championship, and just have a two-tier Scottish league system with the non-league just below. It's the only way these clubs are going to survive, and football is going to survive. There will be some downsides to it, but it's the only way Scottish football's going to get anywhere. Because otherwise, if you take the plan was to bring Rangers and Celtic into the English league system. You take away the old firm. Hibs Hearts cannot carry Scottish football with Aberdeen. It's just not possible. Scottish football will die. Right, teams don't buy players. They sign them to contracts, and then they trade that contract over. So it's like if you have a paper round, you get paid your salary. Basically, you don't do players sign contracts. So it's different to football clubs where there's transfers. Other sports have trades. And when you sign that contract saying you're going to be paid by this team for 10 years on 8 million a year in NHL, for example. When you get traded, that contract has to be honoured by the team you get traded to, because they're franchised. And franchise means all the owners are not really owners; they're franchise, partners of the NHL. It's a complicated system. I'm not explaining it very well, but the team don't buy players. The players are employed by the team. They sign a contract, and they get paid their bonuses and things are to do with the contract. And then the trades happen when the two teams can agree. The average, not a lot. When the EPL existed in ice hockey in the UK, The top end players got paid £2,000 a week. The average player, when it was fully professional, got paid about 300 to 500. It wasn't much more than your average working wage. They're part timers, most of them, so I would say about 150 to 200 quid a week. The wealthier clubs can afford to pay up to £2,000 a week wages. That's the limit of it. It's a part-time league. It's semi-pro with a few pro players. There's not much money in it at the moment. I think that will change over time, but that's where British ice hockey is in the second tier. The elite league is different. I can see £2,000 to £5,000 a week easily for your average player, but at this level, less than £1,000 a week at the top end. And not much more than that. I'm being deadly serious. And I think that is a problem with attracting people to play the game and to officiate the game and to coach the game. Is there's a lack of money in it, and that's something that we need to address desperately. Well, I can't come on my Xbox if I'm doing a live stream, can I? It's kind of difficult to do two things. My Xbox is in another room. Exceptionally difficult for me to do two things. But don't worry, I will be on Xbox Live soon. I've just had a lot of stuff personally to deal with. I've had a few bereavements to deal with, and so I'm not really in the gaming kind of mood. But I will come on Xbox at some point. I've just had some personal issues to deal with with some friends and family not being very well in the last couple of weeks. So I will pop on when I can. But there are other issues going on outside of this YouTube channel, which are difficult to explain, but they're happening. But don't worry, I've got your friend request. I will accept it on Xbox Live. It's just at the moment I think Xbox is back on the things to do. The thing is, it was free to air on Channel 4. They took that away. They brought it back for Channel 5. Then they took that away. Serie A has had problems with match fixing. It hasn't fully recovered from the match fixing scandals. So there's your answer. Wildcats are the more skillful team. The Steel Dogs, they're a goon team. They have a lot of penalty minutes, take a lot of silly penalties. You're a far more skillful team. But back with the Serie A question. Italian football, the top three leagues is 2/3 of the clubs are under investigation at some point for match fixing. So fans are turning off it. Carry on with your Oxford United career mode, it's easier. A player career mode is a pain in the arse, and I can never get my head around it on any sport. The thing is, what you want to be careful is because they're your main leaders on the Wildcats team, they're key players. If they're in the penalty box, they cannot talk on the bench with other players, and they can't lead on the ice by example. So there's a pinch of salt with this. They are key leadership figures for your team, and the Steel Dogs will try and realise they will drop the gloves and fight, and you take some of that experience away, and they're on the penalty box. They can't communicate with the team to sit there with the young players and go, this is what to do, and they can't influence the game with their play on the ice. So that's the issue you have. Oh, they will. It just depends on how the game is going and what the score is. Oh yeah, no, Channel 4. They had the Gazzetta on the Saturday and the live game on the Sunday. I used to love watching that. The issue is they didn't renew the contract for whatever reason. Channel 5 got it for a couple of years, and again they didn't renew it either. I have no idea why. But at the time in Italian football, you had Zidane, you had Ronaldo, the original Ronaldo. you had Totti in his early days when he was in his prime. A lot of Paul Ince was playing over in Italy in the 90s. So unfortunately, those names just don't resonate in Italian football anymore. The players who want to go to the big leagues go elsewhere. Italian football's got a lot of structural problems, corruption, clubs in financial problems. Fans are staying away. They've got an issue with hooligans, a real problem with their ultras, exceptionally violent. They make our hooligans look like pussycats. Batistuta, brilliant Argentine striker. Gaza spent a brief time at Lazio. By that point, Gaza was past his best, but there is that Italian connection with English football. And a lot of great Italian players, that 2006 World Cup winning team were all based in Italy. A lot of good Italian players now are not playing in Italy. They're moving to other clubs. And Italian football is struggling to find that Alexander Pato, that George Ware, the star foreign player, and they're also struggling to find the young Italian, the new Baggio, the new Viali, the new Zola. They're struggling to find these star players that they can export, and they're also struggling to find the next Cannavaro, the next Maldini. They're not creating these players anymore. I have no doubts that Italian football will reinvent itself. It does it every 10, 20, 30 years. It has to go through this crisis, but Italian football needs to really look at how structurally it's formed and the corruption with it, and the hooliganism problem as well. Because there's a lot of issues with Italian football as it stands structurally. There's a lot throughout the game from top to bottom. There's issues all over the place. But yeah, it'd be great to have Serie A football. We used to have the French league highlights on Channel 4 as well on a Sunday morning. You would have the Italian football on Channel 4. We used to have all the football highlights and all the European leagues on Channel 4 in the middle of the night as well. We just don't have that anymore. It's all on pay-per-view sport. It's expensive, and I'm not willing. And people our age, because I'm assuming most people in the chat are between the ages of 18 and 34. That age demographic are just not paying for pay-per-view sports anymore. We're streaming it, or we're going on the VPNs, or we're watching the full match replays after the event. We're just not watching it anymore. We're not paying for the subscription, and if we do want to see the live sport, we go down the pub. So they're not getting the revenue off us for that subscription. We're turning off pay-per-view sports. We're turning off Sky. We're turning off BT. BT hasn't been successful at all. BT Sport's been hopeless. It's not got the viewership they wanted. And if you look at the next round of TV rights, there's 40-odd, 50-odd games that are free, still available, which I hope BBC, ITV, Channel 4, Channel 5 grab the rights to, because they should have the Premier League on free-to-air TV on a platform where the average person can watch it without having to pay $7.99 a day. But I've gone on about pay-per-view sports so many times on this channel, and a lot of people are actually ending up agreeing with me as well. And the amount of people who've terminated their Sky Sports or BT Sports contracts is unbelievable. Streaming is the way forward. Any other questions? Because I'm going to end at, like I said, over 10 minutes or so, maybe 20 minutes till about 10:30, and then I'm going to call it an end on the live stream. Any other questions from you guys? Because I want to keep the live stream going a fair bit longer. It's been great tonight. The subscriber count's gone through the roof. While we've been on, the subscriber count has exploded. I have no idea why all these subscribers are coming from. But I'll be very, very interested in any more questions you guys have. And Yellow Skull, before I forget, I'm going to take a note. Do Rangers video. Oh, bloody pen. Any more questions, guys? Oh, here we go. All right. And I will do that, but I have to admit, a friend of mine died a few days ago, and his funeral's coming up, so I want to get that out of the way before I start doing Xbox and stuff. So you have to bear with some of the personal issues in my life I can't control. A few of my relatives aren't very well right now as well. So the Xbox, I will do it when I can, but it is what it is. I'm sorry for that. I've got my friend's funeral coming up, and I need to focus on that and supporting his brother, who's a good mate of mine as well. It's the structural issues and the corruption within football itself. Lots of leagues have lost their appeal to people and lost that um, that passion. And Italian football has become very, very, very not as good. I don't know. The quality level's dropped, and there's multiple reasons for that. And we could discuss them at length for hours. We dissect each and every club that has played in Serie A since 1990 till now, and you'll be surprised how many have fallen down the leagues, and several have gone completely under and had to be reformed. Parma, for example, has had to be basically reformed several times. Siena has had to be reformed um, and rebranded because of money problems and corruption. Napoli does have a good team. They're not the Napoli of the late 80s, early 90s with Maradona, but they do have a very, very good team. It's good to see them back at the top of Serie A, but again, AC Milan and Inter Milan are not the teams they were 10, 20 years ago. They've really fallen off a cliff. Udinese are not the team they were. Parma had, as I said, had reform. Loads of teams have had problems. Roma and Lazio are sticking at it, which is good, and they're still competitive in Serie A. But loads of teams have really, really struggled over the last 10, 20 years. There are issues with Italian football from top to bottom, and there's match fixing one of them. But youth development's another issue, and attracting the star overseas player as well. They're not getting as good as. Oh no, Napoli would slaughter Rangers. That's not even in question. Rangers wouldn't stand a chance. Not the Rangers. Rangers 10 years ago, maybe. Now, no, that would be horrific. Look at Celtic in the Champions League. They got battered 7-1. Lazio fans are some of the most vile. The ultras, not the mainstream fan, it's the ultras. It's the hooligan element. They are not a nice bunch. They are absolutely. They're racist. They're fascist. They like stabbing people, and they will take axes and machetes to games. As I mentioned earlier in the live stream, if you weren't here, Owen O'Connor, Juventus fan, was in a bar watching a game, and two Lazio fans stabbed him multiple times and stabbed him in a bar in front of a whole bar full of people, and they were never arrested. So there's issues with corruption again, the cover up of it. That was in the same weekend that two police officers were murdered. Juventus is the best supported club in Italy. They're owned by the people who own Fiat. The family that own Fiat also own Juventus. But most of the Fiat workers support Torino. That's the irony behind it. Juventus are well supported around Italy, but in Turin, Torino is the team to support. Both were set up as teams by Englishmen. Most Italian teams have an English connection when English industrialists were going over to Italy in the 1890s to 1910, and that's why a lot of teams play in black and white stripes, such as Siena, Udinese, and Juventus, because of Notts County. I am an Atalanta. I do like Atalanta. I've always liked Atalanta. They are the forgotten team in Lombardy region because of Inter and AC Milan. They are the forgotten team out of that area, and they have a very big rivalry with the two teams from Milan. Very, very big. And it doesn't get reported over here in the UK and the rest of Europe. People forget about Atalanta. They have a very, very good side. They've had some very, very good players over the years. Roma have got the better team. AC Milan are not the team they were. Roma are the better side, and have been for a while. AC Milan have really struggled over last 10 years. Roma have been consistent. AC Milan haven't. Roma have had the odd bad season, but Again, we've gone to Italian football, and it has the same issues as Scottish football, with attendance, money problems, corruption, all sorts. That is an issue that Scottish football has, and Scottish football has with attendance and money problems. Italian football, you add the corruption in there, that's a real bad mix. But Italian clubs have still managed to stay reasonably competitive in Europe, even though their league is not as competitive as it once was. There's a lot of Champions League and Europa League, or what was the UEFA Cup titles, that sit in Italy. I've lived there. I've lived in Italy for a while, so I know a lot about a lot of the teams. I used to follow Bari and Lecce before they, Bari used to have a very, very good team in the 90s. They have a very, very nice stadium as well. It was built for the Italian 90 World Cup. Before the World Cup in 1990, AC and Inter had separate stadiums, and then the San Siro was built and they share it. I'm going to go for another 10 minutes. So, is there any more questions? I'm going to try and go for another 9-10 minutes, and then at 10:30 we're going to call it a night on the live stream, because we've had a really good one. Well, it's to do with Berlusconi, but Silvio Berlusconi, the ex-prime minister of Italy, owned AC Milan for most of the last 30 years, and he sold a lot of the TV rights for Italian football to his media company, Mediaset, and that annoyed a lot of the other football fans in Italy, but the Italian FA and UEFA didn't do anything about it. It was a very corrupt deal. He managed to get the Serie A rights to Mediaset, which was his TV company, and Sky Italia and Fox Italia and Rai, which is the version of the BBC, were very, very pissed off, but UEFA and the Italian FA did nothing. And AC Milan got to try and distance themselves from that. 15 at a bush. Ooh. No, I'm gonna call it a day at half 10. But it's been a very great live stream. It's been a very good live stream. I don't know what the subscriber count is now. It was 203 when I last looked. We started this video at 154, 155. So we've gained about 50 subscribers in 2.5 hours. So I'll be very interested to see what the subscriber count is now. But no, it's exploded in this video. But any more questions? I think I've covered football to death tonight. I'll be happy to take some questions from other sports. I've annihilated football tonight. I've spoken to death about it. I think the joy of my channel, I think, as people have said before, they've never found a channel that covers multiple sports like I do. There is other sports out there. So if anyone's got any other questions, teams like Crotone, Benvenuto, and Sassuolo. Oh no, Sassuolo's got a very, very good loyal local fan base. Crotone, they're from a part of Italy, in the south, in a region that's exceptionally poor in Calabria, which is a very, very, very poor area, and there's a big organised crime element called the 'Ndrangheta, which is the Calabrian mafia. So you have to take Crotone with a pinch of salt, because and Regina as well, because of the 'Ndrangheta involvement in local life down there. There is an issue with that organised crime culture. The 'Ndrangheta mafia are the biggest organised crime group in the world. They're involved in drug smuggling, gun smuggling, contraband, prostitution, murder. It is what it is. That is not a problem. I will do that when I can. If you subscribe to the channel, he's made his I'm assuming that's his YouTube. Yes, I'll find it and I will subscribe to it. I always support other creators. The Masters, ooh, Masters golf. I think Tiger Woods will have a good Masters. He won't win it, obviously, but I think he'll be having a renaissance. It's sort of a nice end chapter to his career because I think Tiger Woods will have to retire within the next couple of years. But his back surgery this time has been successful. So Tiger Woods, I think, will just showboat around. He won't win the Masters. McIlroy and Jordan Spieth, they're the young guns, obviously. Bubba Watson, Mickelson's won it before. Um, Ian Poulter, always look at him for him to have, that one round where he's top of the leaderboard. Ian Poulter, he sometimes seems to fall away in some of them, but he always finishes quite high up. Ian Poulter is a good dark horse for it. But Amen Corner, that 13th hole, is the hole to watch. He's winning. He's doing rather well in the minor tournaments. I don't think he wins the big one of the big championships, like the Masters or the Open or the PGA. But you will see him play some swashbuckling golf at the Masters. He will do it for the fans. He won't win. His driving isn't as far as it used to be. He's got bear in mind his back is wrecked, so you've got to take that into consideration, the amount of back issues he's had. But apparently with Tiger Woods, there's more revelations about his private life coming out in yet another book by someone. So the Tiger Woods off the green saga, as we call it, or off the golf course saga, is continuing. That had an ultimate impact on his career. That obviously. But his golf, he will go down as a legend, absolute legend of the sport. I think we've seen the best of Tiger Woods, obviously, but it'll be good to see him still be competitive. Because whenever you finish, you get prize money. He'll get sponsors, and he'll showboat for the fans, basically, in a good way. He will play just relaxed, no pressure. He's not expected to do anything. I think he'll do reasonably well, and he'll finish. He'll make the cut, and he'll finish in the top half of the tournament. He'll make it to 4 rounds, and I hope his back holds up. Stenson Day, they honestly have a chance. Anyone can have a chance if you're ranked in the top echelon of golfers in both the European PGA and the US PGA. Yeah, you have a chance. Jordan Spieth is the wonder kid. Bubba Watson is Bubba Watson. Mickelson's another good one. Watch out for Mickelson, and Justin Rose is quite good. Not Langer. What's his name? Justin Rose, and Ian Poulter. There are some good English. Yeah, Burnley. Yeah, that's why I think Pope deserves his chance in the England squad. I don't know why Hart would go, if I'm honest. Butland has had too many injuries. I think for me to if he has another injury, I think he's going to find it hard to establish himself. Forster's injured. Foster's getting relegated with West Brom. We have a problem with the England goalkeeping setup. But that's the first time we've had golf questions on the live stream. Oh, he's retired a long time ago. Colin Montgomery retired a long time ago. He's now playing in the seniors tour now. But he's an exceptionally interesting man, is Colin Montgomery. He's a very, very interesting personality. And he was a very, very good golfer in his day. But again, he had similar personal issues to Tiger Woods. He had loads of affairs. I don't know what it is about golfers and being unfaithful to their wives, but they seem to do it a lot. They seem to have a big grouping of, oh, yeah, I've got a really, really attractive wife. I'm going to have an affair. They appear to be highly sexed individuals. I used to play poker. I don't watch it as much as I used to. This gets covered every live stream. I used to play poker at a high level. I don't anymore. I played it when TV poker was very, very popular about 10 years ago, when I was in my late teens, early 20s. The televised TV poker tournaments are less popular now than they were. The shine's worn off it a little bit, but it's still a big thing. Would I go back to it? Most likely, yes. Given the opportunity, yeah, of course I would. But that is something that I could be willing to go back to, but the circumstances would have to be right. I play it more as a hobby than anything. I just enjoy playing Texas Hold'em and Five Card, and I have no problem in teaching people how to play, and enjoy it as a hobby rather than actively gamble with money, because that's where it gets silly. Right. Any last questions before I end? I'll take a couple more questions and then we'll call it a night because it is now 10:30. Any more questions, guys? See, that is interesting. I did not know that, and fair play to you. To get to a TV tournament, you've got to be good, or be consistent. I've got friends who play in the BDO darts pyramid, and one of my mates is ranked like 630th in the BDO rankings in darts. And again, fair play to you. Like, honestly, well done on that. Fair play to you. It takes guts to do that, to be fair, because you're on national, international TV, and if you have a fuck up moment or you have that embarrassing moment, loads of people are going to watch you do it. But fair play to you. I have absolute 100 utmost respect for those who do these high pressure situations. Honestly, I don't know how I would feel in front of a TV camera, how I would react, especially if I know that, but I suppose being a YouTuber, I suppose I'm reacting a bit better now, knowing that people do watch this stuff, and I'll just talk about it anyway. I'll take 3 more questions and then that's me done for the live stream. So last 3 questions, get them in. Last 3 questions, anyone? Advanced Warfare is my favourite Call of Duty, followed by the Modern Warfare trilogy series of the Call of Duty. They're my favourite ones. 2 more questions. Last 2 questions. No, absolutely not for poker. You play the player directly opposite and the 2 either side of that player. It's more to do with their facial expressions. I did not try and card count. That's insane. It is a game of chance, to a point, but it's also about how much you raise and how confident you are in what you've got. Because you've got to look at the cards you have and the cards that are on the river. And if you've got a full house or a royal flush, bang, goal in. Sometimes you've got to take the big risk to get the big reward. Right, but no, I did not use math at all. I used body language when I was looking at my opponents. I kept. I learned a lot about your tells. Nervous ticks give away a lot about how a person's coping under pressure and if they're good at lying or not. And the last question. This will be my last question, and then that's it. But very interesting questions on the poker and the golfing. Right, let's have it. Okay, there's 3 questions come up in one go. No, I did not go on tilt. Fair play to your brother for finishing 5th in the national tournament. That is a fair accomplishment. Any tournament of any hobby or sport or game, that is an accomplishment in itself. My favourite F1 team, I don't really follow F1. I've really tuned off it a lot. But when I was a kid, it was the Benetton team. And I always like the underdog. So I'm not a big fan of the Ferrari and the Mercedes. I like the underdog. So I used to have a lot of Minardi stuff back in the day, when they were like, the underdogs. I used to like Sauber. But at the moment, I don't have a favourite F1 team. I've completely gone off the sport because it's become so dull to watch. It is absolutely dull. I don't like all these excess runoff areas, so you don't have to take the risk for that overtake or that braking area. I can just run over the runoff area and come back on. That's why I like Spa. They've taken a lot of the gravel traps out of Spa, and that's why I like watching the Monaco Grand Prix sometimes, because the barriers make it an interesting one. I don't have a favourite poker player. Right, okay. I don't have a favourite poker player. Right, that's in the live stream. I think I've gone on long enough. I want to thank you every single one who has taken part tonight. Thank you for all your great questions. Thank you for your input. Thank you for your involvement. And let's have a look at the subscriber count, because last I checked it was 203, and I know it's probably gone up more than that. So let's have a look at the old sub count. So we started the live stream on 154, 155. And so that's what we started the live stream at. And let's have a look where we finished up. We finished up on 203, so we gained 48 or 49 subscribers or thereabouts. So basically, we gained nearly 50 subscribers in 2.5 hours. I have no idea why that was. I have no idea why. I probably was on one of the videos I posted. Unless someone was just inviting people. I think Yellow Skull might have had a little bit. Yeah, and to be fair, Yellow Skull sat for 2.5 hours listening to go on. But everyone, thank you very much. I really appreciate all your involvement tonight. You've had some great questions, and there's been some interesting topics we've discussed. Really appreciate all the involvement from everyone. Thank you to all the new subscribers. Thank you very much for watching. And Yellow Skull, there'll be a video on Rangers possibly tomorrow, most likely. And yeah, of course, Rangers are terrible because everyone else is Celtic fans for some reason. On the Scottish fan side of things, but I have promised a history on Rangers, and I'll do a history on Celtic as well, including a video on the Lisbon Lions. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, everyone. And I'll have some more videos tomorrow, and we'll do some more live streams next week. Okay, thank you very much, and good night.